One of the most common issues, like day to day,
99.9% of the time, people are walking out being like, oh my God, Joe, I feel so much better, right? Like people get excited to come in.
find the issue, the exact thing, and focus all the energy on that without damaging other tissue or muscles around it, so that way the body can heal.
But the main thing we're known for in the area is being soft tissues.
Hello, all you beautiful people, and welcome back to Talkin St. Pete. I am your host, Ryan Bogdan. Before we get into today's wonderful guest, I want to let you know that this podcast is sponsored by Bogdan Homes. So if you know anyone looking to buy, sell, or invest here in the greater Tampa Bay area, please find our contact information in the description below. And now, on to our awesome guest, Joe Maltese with Primal Performance Spine and Sport. I almost said sport and spine, but it's spine and sport.
Most people get it wrong. So Primal Performance is like
Primal
the main
Performance.
thing.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Local chiropractor, putting everyone back together, doing soft tissue work and regular chiropractic. Yes.
Yeah. So chiropractic, everyone, if medically necessary and if they're cool with being treated, we have some people come in who are like, if you crack my neck, I'm never coming back.
You're like, okay.
Noted. But yeah, so we will do the chiropractic adjustment, but the main thing we're known for in the area is being soft tissue specialists. So
yeah. So what does that mean?
Yeah. So
what does that mean? Let's dive right into it.
Yeah, we might as well.
Yeah, because I'm all like, that's an added cool thing that you do. And some people, I mean, it's cupping, right?
Yeah. So cupping's part of it. Think of just like we develop plaque in our teeth as a completely normal part of using your teeth every day. Your muscle fibers create these little adhesions as a normal part of use and stress. And if we have a career or if we have a sport that overuses certain muscles, it's going to build up quicker. So what will happen is these little pieces of adhesion are kind of like little pieces of glue that make that muscle a little stickier. It decreases the ability of that muscle to work properly. And if it happens in the muscles that are meant to stabilize a joint, that joint's now not going to be properly locked in, protected, loved, and stabilized. And that joint now is going to start to move more than it wants to.
Oh man, I'm excited. I got so many questions. It's so good. So good. Okay. Before we get into all that, how long have you been in St. Pete?
7 years.
7 years. Okay. Where'd you move from?
Originally from New York City.
Okay.
My wife and I, Dr. Tosh, did a pit stop in Panama City Beach area.
Okay. Got
2
it.
years.
And what brought you to St. Pete?
My best friend that I grew up with moved here. So he moved to Tampa probably about 16 years ago. And I would come down once a year to every other year and visit him in Tampa. And Tampa just didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
There was nothing that called me and said, this is where you need to be. And then my wife and I knew we wanted to open our own clinic, but we needed to be in an area that had younger, healthier people who wanted to take care of their bodies and be more proactive than reactive.
Yep.
And he moved to Crescent Lake area, and we came down to visit one weekend, and we looked at each other and we're like, this is where we need to move.
This is it.
People running by Vinoy Park, people running downtown, local breweries. And this was before the explosion of St. Pete, and we already fell in love with it at that point.
And now it's just off the charts.
Yeah.
Okay. So what led you to chiropractic? When in your life did you say, okay, I'm going to be a chiropractor?
So my uncle is a chiropractor.
Okay.
So I grew up around it. Very different type of chiropractor. So more of that old school chiropractor. I double majored in undergrad, biology, psychology. I loved both of them. I liked the concept of dealing with people. I never wanted to be in a cubicle working. I wanted to be around people. I wanted to help people. And I never wanted to be more of that medical model. I didn't want to have to tell someone bad news one day that, something with them or their child or something was, not the best. Chiropractic was something that 99.9% of the time people are walking out being like, oh my God, Joe, I feel so much better, right? Like people get excited to come in. And it was my senior year of undergrad. I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And one of my friends in my biology class, or it was recombinant DNA was the class, he missed class like on a Friday. That weekend I went down, spoke to my uncle who was a chiropractor, and he's like, Joe, you got to be a chiropractor. Like you're good with people. You're easy to talk to. You love people. Like you should be a chiropractor. And I only really knew his type of chiropractic. And I was like, I don't know if I could do that every day. I feel like it's the same thing. I went back to school and I asked my friend who missed class. I was like, where were you on Friday or Thursday, whatever it was? And he's like, oh, I had an interview at New York Chiropractic College. And I was like, you're going to be a chiropractor? And he's like, yeah. And I went home that night and I applied.
Nice.
And the rest is history.
Okay, cool. And now your wife She goes by Tosh.
Yep.
uh, she's also a chiropractor.
Yep.
So how'd you guys meet?
I was her TA in school.
Ah, nice, nice.
And our school, it's in upstate New York, super small school.
Right.
So there's like one bar in town that everyone went to, right?
So everyone knows everybody.
Exactly. Everyone knew everyone.
Got it. That's cool. And then you guys made the venture and have a practice together. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So now, did you have a practice together prior to coming here or no?
No. So we moved here, and what we did, because we moved to a place where no one knew us, we don't take insurance, and we practice a completely different type of chiropractic than everyone else. So people weren't like breaking the door down to be treated, right? So we knew we needed an income to get started. So she started working for another chiropractor in the area, started getting an income, and then I started Primal, but I started coaching at a local CrossFit gym, just so people can get to know me and like me and trust me.
Yep.
And then 6 months in, we thought it might be years before she joined. And 6 months in, we just blew up. And I remember walking into her office and telling her, like, quit your job. Let's go.
Let's go.
Like,
I need you over here.
It's time.
That's amazing. That's a special sauce that St. Pete brings. I mean, it's just a small business community and everyone supports everyone. And that's great. I love that. That's a really cool story. Okay. So how did you learn the different type of chiropractic that you're in now with the soft tissue and everything that you're doing? Because it's not a 2-minute, visit with you. We talked about that before the show. Like it's typically 20, 25, 30 minutes. People are sitting down with you, which is not like an experience I've had. I've been in and out in like 3 minutes, it's like I barely blinked and I'm walking back out the door, which I don't feel like is a good value.
Yeah.
For me, I don't. So where did you find that niche in your practice?
So I graduated with as much sports education as I can get in school. And then I worked for a chiropractor, worked for a couple chiropractors. And the most recent one, when I was up in Panama City Beach, had some sports aspect to it, but I think it was more of like a sales pitch than actual sports treatment. And I hurt my shoulder. I joined CrossFit, had a bad experience in CrossFit, as many people have had, and I hurt my shoulder. And I did everything, and my wife, Dr. Tosh, did everything we had. We had all the gizmos and the gadgets and the lasers. And for like 3 months, my shoulder wasn't getting better. And then it started hitting me. Number one, I wasn't able to do the workouts. But also number two, it was hard for me to work as a chiropractor if I have a bum shoulder.
Yep.
And there was a chiropractor I knew who really focused on athletes. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey man, like my shoulder's not good. What do you recommend? He had me meet him and the owner of the guy he trained under, who's out of Boston. And I went up for a weekend and I just explained to the chiropractor, I was like, hey, I don't want to get like free treatment from you, but do you mind checking my shoulder out? And he's like, yeah, we can use this. There was like 20 chiropractors there who were there for the weekend to train.
Nice.
So he's like, we'll use this as a teaching opportunity for everyone. So he had me go up to the front of the room and he'd be like, all right, ask your questions. And somebody would be like, does it hurt when you do this? Or somebody was like, what about this? And no, and I'd answer the question and he'd be like round robin and be like, what do you guys think it is? And then he'd be like, all right, what test would you guys do? We would do this or I would do this. And he's like, oh, okay. And within like one treatment, my shoulder went from 0 to like 80% better.
Whoa. So what did they do?
So we focused on a couple of the muscles of the rotator cuff. So his big thing was, let's get really good at identifying what specific tissue needs to be fixed, right? So he always said, like, you wanted to be like a little ninja who can go in, get the job done, and get out, rather than a mass bomber who just destroys tissue. Because your body, almost like getting a salary or an allowance, your body only has so much energy to heal. So if there's 5 muscles in a row and the one in the middle is the one that needs to be healed, and the other 4 are just healthy tissue, if I were or somebody were to go in and just destroy all 5 tissues, well, now all of that money or all of that energy has to be spread out and you're fixing stuff that was fine to begin with. Whereas his thing is, if you can find that one specific tissue and fix that, now you can put all of that, almost like a bad debt. You can put all of your money towards that and you can attack the problem rather than just throwing and wasting energy out there.
I like the analogies.
Yeah, I love analogies.
Yeah,
so
it's
like,
really
that's my thing.
It's really good visual, and so like find the issue, the exact thing, and focus all the energy on that without damaging other tissue or muscles around it, so that way the body can heal.
And we've been to, whether it's a massage therapist, chiropractor, PT, or whatnot, where like you walk out here and you're like, oh my God, I could barely move my arm. Like, wow, that was great. Something happened, right? Like, and it's almost that American mentality of more is better.
Right.
Whereas if you can come in, I want to just fix what's wrong and get you out rather than just making you super sore. And that's the problem with some of these therapies and some of these treatments is people fall in love with like, man, that massage therapist made me like begging for mercy, like something must have happened, right? Which isn't necessarily the case.
Yeah, you can walk out worse than you walked
Yeah,
in.
100%.
Yeah.
More is not always better.
Yeah. Less is more.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. So we got the spot. So I want to go back to the cupping, the soft tissue, all those minor, what did you call them? Lesions?
Adhesions.
Adhesions.
Yeah.
Going on in the muscles. And where did you find that cupping helps with that? And what does cupping do? Because this is an ancient practice.
Yeah, it's been around for like 6,000 years in Oriental medicine. It's super effective.
Yeah.
It really hit mainstream with Michael Phelps in the Olympics, right?
I mean, he's got all them bruises.
All the bruises. Everyone right away wants to know what is that. And you have the fittest athlete or the fittest swimmer, most decorated Olympian of all time.
Olympic gold medalist.
Like, what is he doing? I want to do that. So adhesions are like little rubber bands. It actually looks like spider web under a microscope. So if you look at it, it's the baseline of scar tissue. So if you've ever had a surgery, if you've ever had a cut and you see a scar, that scar tissue is your body's response to trauma. So your body a lot of times will just get things healed up good enough because it's got other things to worry about.
Yep.
Using another analogy, if there was a massive pothole in St. Pete, and to the point that like your tire would be destroyed if you drove into it, and somebody came by from the city and you're like, oh my God, we don't have resources. We don't have anything. This is a busy street, First Ave North. Let's grab 150 water bottles and just fill it with water bottles, right? Like we'd still tell people to slow down going over it, but it would save the tire, right? Like it would save the struts or whatever of the car.
Right.
So your body, when it has these traumas, what it does is it will lay this fibrous tissue down. And instead of being nice and flat like tissue is supposed to be, it's all haphazard, but it's just filled in there. The problem with scar tissue is it's more sensitive than regular tissue. And it's not as flexible as regular tissue. So that's why some people after surgery are very limited in their range of motion or things get more uncomfortable for them. So adhesion is that micro level. It's a very beginning level. It's just the very basic overuse friction in the area. So if we think of a rubber band, you can press in really hard on a rubber band. It's not going to break. You can drive over with the same car from our analogy. It won't break. But a 4-year-old can take it, pull it apart, and it snaps. And that's because tension has an exponential increase in pressure, whereas compression only has a linear increase in pressure. So you would have to really press really hard to break scar tissue. Pulling it apart, cupping is able to decompress that tissue, separate tissue from tissue, and it's like pulling that rubber band apart and it breaks that rubber band.
The visual is so good.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense when you put it that way. Like I'm really seeing like, because there's not, how else can you pull on muscles like that?
And that's where we're able to, some massage therapists will use cupping and some other practitioners will use cupping in a very static way. They'll put a cup on there and they'll leave it for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, take it off. You'll see big bruises. Whereas what we do is we'll do a lot of, so like if the adhesion's here, we'll cup, which is pulling on it, but then we'll also force range of motion, which is going to pull it even more, or on your side, or put them on your lower back and have you go back into child's pose, or different kinds of stretches. So just move. Exactly. Just to really break all this up. It allows the scar tissue to be broken down. It restores function and also neurologically shows your brain, we could do this motion and we're fine. We're safe. Nothing's scary. It's almost like a little kid who's scared and you open up the closet and you're like, see, there's no monster in here.
Right.
It's a very therapeutic way to heal the body.
I'm super intrigued. And so I'm leaving for Portugal on Thursday. And for some reason, I was like, I was going to come in this week and I was like, I don't want all the bruises on my back before my trip. But when I get back, we're definitely going to make that happen because I've never done it. And a little research I did on it is that, it goes back to, they think maybe the Egyptians invented this, like 1500 BC.
It's incredible.
That's crazy. Like, I think they were super advanced in a way that we don't understand. I think so. So that is a very unique way to go about chiropractic, a lot different. And so tell me about adjustments, because I think when we had our initial phone call, you were telling me that this soft tissue work that you do is maybe longer lasting than the traditional adjustments, because we were talking about, you step off a curb the wrong way, you're going to be out of whack again.
Yeah, so using that analogy or kind of the explanation of that joint moving too much if it's not properly stabilized, That's what allows a lot of these joints becoming irritated. So if all I'm doing is resetting the joint, why did the joint get upset in the first place? It's because it wasn't locked in and stabilized. So if I can do all the musculature work, stabilize, lock in, protect, just get those muscles to do their job initially and do the adjustment, that joint's not going to slip back out. Because if all I do, if, you know, we're using the elbow just as an example, if the elbow is upset because the muscles around it aren't doing their job, I could adjust the elbow. I wouldn't, only the spine, but whatever joint it would be, if I adjust that and the muscles are still going to want to pull it back out, pull it back out, pull it back out, the next time I do a bicep curl or pick up my kid, it's going to become irritated again. And most people's complaints of chiropractic is, I went in, felt pretty good, but I had to keep going back, right? And it becomes an annuity plan for that chiropractor. And chiropractors, and trust me, I'm the hardest person on my profession. Chiropractors are really good at putting it on the patient. Like, what'd you do? Did you pick up your kid again? And the patient's like, oh my God, I did. And they're like, see, I told you should. You know what I mean? Like, as if it's your fault. Whereas my job is to restore function and to allow you to go do the things you want to do, right? Like, we treat a lot of professional athletes who need to be able to do their job again.
Right.
They can't be like, you know, going to do something and then all of a sudden something happens and then be like, man, Dr. Joe's gonna be so mad at me because I threw a baseball again. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm truly doing the job that I'm promising someone, I need it to be stabilized and I need it to actually work and last.
Really, that really makes sense. And yeah, because I've had that experience of no, I'm out of whack again. What is it that happens where, because I know they're checking all the time, of your feet are out of alignment. One foot's longer than the other, or one leg is longer than the other.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
What happens is, so a lot of us know of on some level our spine, right? So we have our neck, which is our cervical spine, mid back, which is our thoracic spine, lumbar, which is your lower back. Your pelvis, or when somebody says put your hands on your hips, you typically go right to your pelvis. So that pelvis, what it does is it's a bowl and you have technically 3 bones. And what will happen is you'll have a little bit of a shift forward or back. If you look at someone without their shirt on, you can see the 2 little dimples on their lower back. Those are called your SI joints, your sacroiliac joints. And what will happen is sometimes one part of your pelvis shifts forward, one part shifts back. And that's from lying on your side when you're sleeping or crossing your legs or driving too long. You'll have that kind of imbalance. And when the one side rotates forward, it lifts your leg up with it. And that way, when you're on your stomach face down, you could see one leg presenting that it's longer than the other.
Got it.
So it's a way to evaluate the balance of your pelvis.
That's where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Pelvis. See, I didn't realize that. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And when you were saying that, I had another question and then I lost it.
It'll come back.
It'll come back for sure. Oh, well, so infants doing that's like a thing.
Yeah, that's Dr. Natasha's main specialty is pregnant.
So what's
women and
going
kids.
on there?
So our spine is bone, right? And we have a lot of cartilage that locks it in. Infants are very cartilaginous. It's not, their bones aren't hard yet. So what will happen is, because it's not so locked in, it's very easy for things to shift, and they're going to stand up and they're falling on their butt and they're jamming their sacrum. So there's a lot of imbalances that can cause colic, difficulty latching, constipation, irritability. And it's like the adjustment of an infant's super easy. It's very light. It's like checking the ripeness of a tomato. So that's the analogy we always use with parents. But yeah, Tasha's treated as young as like 3 days old.
Wow. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. And so you mentioned constipation, all of these other things like it. So there's a lot going on with the nervous system because of the spine. So not just infants, but in adults. And that's one thing that chiropractic says, can fix because of the balance of the nervous system, I'm guessing, right? So explain that a little bit. Yeah,
so the nerves control everything in our body. And then the most important is the brain and the spinal cord. And then from there, you have like exits on a highway. You have all of these different nerves that come out and do different things. Traditional chiropractic could be very good at selling you on, oh, if you have diabetes, it might be because your pancreas isn't working properly. And L2 goes to the pancreas. The nerve of L2 in your spine goes to the pancreas. So if we can make that healthier, we can make your pancreas healthier. I think that's just selling something to people that are hoping for a miracle. What we do see is when you get adjusted, when you get treated, it turns on your parasympathetic system, which is your rest and digest. We've heard of that, like fight or flight versus rest and digest. And your blood pressure goes down, you sleep better, you digest better. So I tell people I'm much more on that train than I am on if you get adjusted, your immune system is going to be better and you're going to fight cancer better.
Got it. So it's just realigning your nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system to kind of get that back in working.
Yeah, and it's like
back in balance.
Yeah, it's like holding the power button down on your computer if it's not working.
Yep.
You reboot the system, you put everything back to square one and let it go, rather than holding on to some of the traumas or some of the stressors that we had.
Yeah. What are some of the most common issues like day to day that you said people are coming to visit you? Is it sport injury? Is it like just?
So I thought everybody was going to come in when I graduated. Everyone was going to come in with like this massive sports injury. Number one thing we see is like gardening injuries, right? Just think of like
being,
you're hunched over, you're forward, you're leaning, you're hinging, you're grabbing. Honestly, probably a lot of what we see is we're in an era where people are sitting a lot at work.
Yeah, what's up with the tech neck, right?
Yeah, right. So your head's forward, your shoulders are internally rotated. It just puts a lot of stress and strain.
Mm-hmm.
We see a lot of sleeping injuries, kind of that overuse. Good catch.
Yeah.
Sleeping constantly head to the side, especially if you're a stomach sleeper, can put some strain on your neck.
Oh, I can't do that.
And then, lots of sports just overuse. A lot of runners.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, that's good. I was just curious, because people got it always. You hear it's a common thing, right? People got back problems.
Yeah.
What's going on with their backs? They're always jacked up,
and it's just overuse and not doing anything about it, right? Like imagine if you never got your teeth clean. Of course, there's going to be teeth problems.
Yeah.
And then if you're not somebody who's going to get your back taken care of, that's going to be a problem too.
100%. Now before, because you were a little busy. I'm changing gears here a little bit.
Yeah.
Talk about Europe. You just backpacked Europe.
Europe was insane.
Yeah. What? Switzerland, Austria,
and Croatia.
Yeah,
we did a yoga retreat in Croatia with
Whoa,
Sun State
tell
Yoga.
me about that.
Shout out Sun State Yoga. And it was amazing. We were on a boat for a week, waking up and doing yoga with the sun rising. It was incredible.
That sounds perfect right now.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
And the weather was great. Not 1,000,000 degrees like it is here. We backpacked through Switzerland for 2 weeks. Like it felt fake. It was so nice. It felt fake.
It's so cool. What was your favorite part?
I'd say Switzerland.
Yeah.
I'm much more mountains hiking than I am a beach person.
Yeah. The Alps are unbelievable.
Insane.
Yes.
And we didn't see a piece of trash the entire, they respect their homeland there. They respect what they're doing. And it's truly the leave the earth better than you found it type mentality, which is so nice.
So were you just in the mountains of Switzerland? Did you go to Zurich or?
We did Zurich, Lucerne, Interlaken, Geneva, and Zermatt.
Wow, you got them all. And when the cities are clean.
The cities are so clean. Fresh drinking water everywhere. You just fill up your water bottle.
That was one of the biggest. So I spent some time in Zurich, and I was like, I feel like I could eat off the sidewalk.
Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
So nice. And then you come back to America, and you're like,
oh man, that's a little rough. Yeah, it is over there. It's in the fresh air, the mountain air. Yeah, I love that. But yoga, you've been doing yoga for a while?
Yeah, so I've been much more serious over the last 1.5 years since I've joined Sun State.
Yeah. Shout out Carrington.
Yeah, now I'm getting my yoga teacher training through them.
Are you?
I started last weekend.
Nice. Congrats, man. That's awesome.
Super exciting.
Yeah, I don't have it. My sister and brother-in-law both did it, so I've watched them through their studies and talked about everything that they were reading, going through the books and everything. And I think that's a lot, just like chiropractic or cupping, it's a lost art or technology that we're not using, that we've had around for thousands of years to keep the body in check.
Back to the basics.
Back to the basics. Yeah. And so, I mean, how does chiropractic align with yoga now that you're in that world? Have you seen, I don't know, it's helping people keep joints in place or pulling those tissues apart? Is it better? Is it bad? I don't know. I'm just.
No, I think it's great. I think in the beginning, before I really got into the practice, I would have really promoted it from the stretching flexibility aspect. But what I've noticed is how well it gives people awareness of their body. Right? I think that's super important.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, if you ask them to properly brace their core right now, they wouldn't really know how to do it. They'd kind of struggle.
Yeah.
Whereas what I found with yoga is it's an amazing teacher of this is your body. This is the proper way to move it. So when you do have to pick up your kid, or you do have to bend down to pick up something, or garden, you know how to properly stabilize your body through that movement.
Sounds weird, but you know how to move.
Yeah, literally. The most basic thing.
Right. Know how to move and breathe, which we're never taught.
Never.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I've really fallen in love with yoga.
It's really awesome. Now, what about Sweat and Jody? How long have you been a part of that community?
2 years officially. I was a class passer, and then I just fell in love with it, and I wanted that 6 a.m. class.
Yeah.
And Jody's got a good thing going there. And if you want to get into that 6 a.m.,
Yeah.
you're not just flirting and dating, right? Like you're
No,
committing.
you're
It's the way
committed.
I say
Yeah,
it to
yeah.
people. So signed up for that full membership, and I absolutely love it there.
Yeah.
Another great studio.
It's an amazing community. We wouldn't know each other if it wasn't for it. And shout out to your point of St. Pete just being health and fitness conscious. I mean, everything. It's awesome going out to Vinoy in the morning and seeing the amount of people that are out moving and running and of all different ages. You know, it's not just young people.
And it's inspiring.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you see, I was for a run the other day, and I was just to the point where I was just kind of like started walking. Then I had like these 75-year-olds pass me, and I'm like, this is awesome, right? Like this is.
You're like, hold on.
Yeah, and it just pushes you, and it makes you feel good seeing other people do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You are the average of the people you surround yourself with, and you're getting dusted by some 70-year-olds. You're like, hold on a second. Got to put it back in gear. Yeah,
it's good to see.
Big mental game. So what else? Okay, when you're not at Sweat working out and you're not putting people back in alignment and doing cupping, what else do you enjoy doing in St. Pete?
We're training for a marathon right now.
Oh,
so we did
cool.
New York last year, London in the beginning of this year, and we're doing Chicago in October.
Wow, you guys are about it.
Yeah, so we do that to raise money for St. Jude Children's Hospital.
Nice.
I think so far we're at like maybe 30,000 raised for St. Jude's. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's nice because when you're at a point, like especially right now, like I start sweating and I'm out of breath leaving the house because it's so hot and you don't want to do it. But knowing what these kids are going through, it just gives you that extra little boost, right? So when you're mile 22 out of 26.2, and I'll always say to 0.2 because that 0.2 is earned at the end. When you're at that mile 22, like you hate it and you want to stop and you're in this pain cave and you're thinking about every reason to stop. But when you're thinking about what these kids are going through, you're like, I can keep going. I could fight through this.
Purpose.
Yeah, exactly. It just gives you that purpose.
And that has shown up so much. Purpose, just in general, as being a driving factor, has shown up a lot for me in the last few weeks. And to the point of like, not everyone's driving their life with purpose. And if you didn't have that, how would you have made it this far?
No, I would have stopped like week 3.
Yeah.
Once like the sexiness of like, ooh, I get to run a marathon wore off, I would have been done. Motivation stops.
Yep.
That's why you need the purpose.
You need the purpose as a driving factor. Everyone gets in their car with a purpose to know where they're going, but we don't drive our lives or our goals the same way, right? We need to know where we're going, what's their driving factor and purpose behind it, or we're just shooting aimlessly. So I love that you brought that up because, I mean, your ability to be able to do that and raise $30,000. There's organizations that are way bigger than what you're doing that can't raise that much money. So it shows a lot about how deep your purpose is and drive to be able to push and do that. So I love that you shared that.
Yeah,
That's
really rewarding.
That's awesome. Yeah, shout out to St. Jude's and the kids. And you're right. We have to be grateful every day of what we have, our health. That's health is wealth. Without you got nothing.
I agree with that more than
most. I'm sure you do. I mean, you're really a huge part of helping that. And I know a lot of people in the area that go to you have nothing but great things to say about you and your practice and your wife. So appreciate everything that you're doing for St. Pete. Where do you guys like to go eat?
Ooh, great questions. So top 2 would be Sauvignon and Sola. So Solar, which is super close to here.
I don't think I've been there.
Oh, it's so
You're
good.
the first one to say that.
Bistro. So good.
Yeah.
Shout out Tig, the owner.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's a wine bar. He's Armenian. His chef art is Russian, and they do like crazy spin on things. Their au poivre sauce with their filet is insane. It's definitely my favorite steak in St. Pete.
Whoa.
But they'll have like camel tartare and just like super random stuff that I normally wouldn't try, but he's always like, try this.
Right.
And it's amazing.
That's good. That's good.
And his wine list there is incredible too.
Okay, good to know. Sola,
S-O-L-A.
We got to mark that. That's the first that's ever been said. Yeah, we don't. That's a first. I like that.
You got to go there. Whoever's listening, go.
Sola, check it out. Okay, cool. So, St. Pete, what do you think the future holds?
Oh, that's a great question. And I always listen when you have other people, and I'm like, man, that's a good answer. I think that as much as it's growing and expanding, I think it will always hold the small town specialness, the community, because we're not leaving. Right? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I like the way you put that. Yes.
It's true though, because we're all going to be here still. So you might have other people come in, You might have high rises go up, but you're still going to have that keep St. Pete weird community that is going to keep fighting for that. And like, that's the best part is like, we don't even have to fight for it. It's just who we are.
It's the culture.
It's the culture. It's
And
here. It's built. So it's not like another place where it might not be there and you're trying to come in and instill that. Like, that's who St. Pete is. And I think that's what's amazing about St. Pete.
it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
It's a real warm, cozy feeling.
Yeah. And that's not dying.
No, I think it's only going to expand. However, I mean, look around downtown right now. The cranes are real. There's cranes everywhere, which shows for the growth. I think it's a good thing for the economy, but it is going to change our skyline. It is going to change the skyline.
Anytime I'm at the pier and I look back and I'm just seeing like, again, the cranes and this and that, like, yeah, there is that part that resists change and can look at change as a bad thing. But as you mentioned, the economy and there's other things that can develop and good things can come from it. And that's why people should be proactive with stuff.
I think so. Yes, change is inevitable, and of course, when there's a good thing, it's going to attract more people.
Yeah.
You know, it can't stay secret forever, I don't think. What do you think we're missing?
A really good sports bar. I know Fergs, shout out Fergs. I like Fergs, but I'm talking like something that has like 8 big screen TVs. Like a lot of other cities have that, especially near stadiums.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Philly, you have the live it's not Genesis Live, something live.
No, it is. Yeah, Xfinity Live.
Xfinity Live,
You
right?
spent time in Philly?
I lived in Philly for a year.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was there for 4.
Yeah, I lived in Manayunk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
my first job out of school was in Philly.
Nice.
So like you have this area where you have all these bars and everything around, and then you have these massive TVs. Like Fergs, you have the TVs and stuff, but they're smaller TVs.
Right.
Whereas if you have like where the Hofbrauhaus used to be,
Mm-hmm.
like I felt like that could be a really cool spot if somebody came in and just, you know, have maybe like 5 or 6 different food vendors, a couple bars.
I wonder if and when the new Rays Stadium gets approved and adopted, and they do that, it's 88-acre project and redo the Trop, if something like that would come in.
Yeah, I feel like that would be awesome just for like sports games to be able to go there, and you know, you have 8 different football games going on at once. Like there's a lot of bars in St. Pete that we enjoy going to. Like I love going to Fergs, having some wings, some beers, and watching the games. But it's kind of hard to strain and see here or strain and see there.
Yeah, there's not that area like Xfinity Live, to your point, in Philly. So for those who don't know, Xfinity Live is a large venue. One, the Philly sports is so crazy because it's all concentrated.
Yeah.
All the stadiums are in one local area. And then you have Xfinity Live, which is like the main viewing part if you're not going to a game, or you're going to maybe go to a tailgate and then go to Xfinity. And there's a large room with a massive, massive screen in the middle. And you're a part of this now community of watching the game on one screen together, cheering, hollering. And I do agree. That energy is crazy.
It's insane.
Yes.
And it's an opportunity, like you said, you can go tailgate and then go there and watch the game. Right. So I feel like it could just bring bigger groups of people together.
Mm-hmm. I could see that. I think with a new development, we could find the people to do it, because now that you put the idea out there, or it will happen organically. I like that. That's unique. That was a good answer.
Yeah, I've always thought that.
Yeah.
That's something that's been on my mind for quite some time.
Yeah. What'd you think of the year of Philly? When were you there?
2013. So yeah, I moved down there Halloween of 2012, graduated chiropractic school December 1st, 2012. And then pretty much for the whole 2013 calendar year, I was in Philly.
Yeah.
I loved it. Philly was sweet.
Philly, yeah, it's a good time.
My job just wasn't what I was looking for. It was great for what it was at the time. And thank God it wasn't great because I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you're here. Now. Yeah, I'm glad you're here. Shout out Philly, all the love, but like had to leave.
But yeah, I mean, I think that would definitely be my answer of what St. Pete's missing.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
So what's next for you in your career?
I just started. Shout out my men's group I started. So I started a men's group maybe 6 months ago. We meet once a month. Actually meeting tomorrow, Sunday morning.
Okay.
And it's an opportunity for guys just to get together, talk about life, talk about struggles, talk about victories. Women are a lot better about getting together and confiding in each other. Most adult men don't feel like they even have one friend that they can honestly confide in and be honest about their feelings or their struggles. And that's why mental health is such an issue right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I started, it's called The Culture of Men.
I like that.
Yeah. And it's because I had a friend, I didn't have a name for it at first. I wanted to start the group and I was trying to think of a name and I was delaying starting a group. And then finally a good friend of mine, my life coach, was like, who cares about a freaking name? Just start the group. Started the group. It was a huge success. And then I had a friend be like, oh, you're just a cult of men. And cult is short for culture, right? Like, so I'm like, yeah,
right.
yeah, we are. We are a culture of men. Just we don't get together and talk about anything crazy. It's not like this like very machismo group. We have men of every different person, but it's just a place for us to get together. And, you know, most guys, their relationship with their friends is over working out or over a couple of beers or over watching sports. And there's nothing wrong with those things, but you don't get to the nitty gritty stuff in those conversations, right? So this is a community and an area where you can come and share if you want. You don't have to share if you want.
So what's the format? Because I've never, So is it like everyone? Is it hanging out and?
So we meet typically at the pier.
Yeah.
Sunday we're meeting at Primal because it's like 1,000,000 degrees, and I don't want to subject people to that. So we get together. I normally pick a topic. So like the last meeting was what we resist persists, right? So like if you've ever played like Super Mario back in the day, there would be like the little ghost chasing after you, and if you had your back to him, he would chase after you. But as soon as you turn towards him, he would stop. Right. And a lot of our anxieties and our fears work in that way. Right. And that's where like Nightmare on Elm Street and like a lot of these folk legends come from. It's when you think of something that's anxious to you and you're like, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about that. And like, let me grab my phone. Let me get on Instagram. That's building in your mind. You're giving more power to it. Whereas if you face it and you get words out on it and you speak about it and you make a plan to fix it, all of a sudden you take that power away. Freddy goes away or whatever the scary thing is. So I use that as like, hey, here's a jumping off point. You can talk about that if you want, something in your life you've been resisting and like what would be a key step to it. Or you could just go out and be like, I'm having problems with my girlfriend, or I'm having problems with my mom, or I'm having problems with my own, whatever, my boss. You can talk about whatever you want. But it's a nice kind of like jumping up point. And then we have a WhatsApp group. So this way, if like, let's say you're like, I'm going to talk to my boss by Thursday.
Accountability.
Yeah. Like on Thursday, you could be like, guys, like, I kind of want to back out, but tell me I'm going to feel better. Remind me of that person on Sunday who said this needed to happen. So you have the accountability. Also, an important part of our group is you let everyone know when you're about to share if you want feedback. Let's say something's super raw and super new, and you might have found out that your brother has cancer or something that you don't want to have a conversation about. You can let everyone know, be like, guys, I just need a container to talk about this stuff. I just need to get this off my chest. I'm not ready to process. I'm not ready to hear how you went through a similar thing. Maybe next time. But for now, I just want someone to sit there and just look me in the eye and listen to me. And I want to feel heard. So it's really nice that we have that, because some people, you know, we've all been there before when you're sharing with someone and right away, like you could see the look in their eye, like they're going to tell you, well, I went through this.
Right.
And it's like, that's not what this is about.
No.
This is a
They
place.
immediately try to.
Yeah, exactly. And make it about them.
Yep.
And it's not supposed to be.
No.
It's supposed to be about you.
Just listen.
Yeah. So, I started that group and I couldn't be more proud of, you know, the wins. There's tears. There's just men being open in a way that they might not have been in a long time, if ever.
Yeah.
Right. And just building healthier relationships.
I like to call it pulling back the curtain.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
And it's so important, right? Like, I feel like we've had, and obviously like this toxic masculinity, you know, was/is a thing, but I feel like there's this huge overcorrection that's happened that has almost demasculized men. And I feel like it's important for us to get together, and masculinity is safe. Masculinity is strong. Masculinity makes the people around them feel protected. Toxic masculinity is weak. Toxic masculinity is terrible.
Right. The overinflated narcissist ego.
It's dangerous.
Yep.
But like true masculinity is strength. And I feel like we need to restore that in men again.
Yeah, I think so. There's a thing that, you know, hard times make.
I love that.
Yeah.
Quote.
Well, yeah. How's it go? How's it going?
Hard time. Strong men
Mm.
create good times.
Yep.
Good times create weak men.
Yep.
Weak men create hard times. Hard times create strong men.
Yeah. It's just that cycle. And I think it's really, 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 really true. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have to do the hard things, then you're going to be out of balance.
Yeah. And you're going to look for the easy things.
Yeah.
And doing the easy thing consistently is going to create bad things.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're not sharpening yourself.
It's funny you're saying, because in terms of habits, right? Because once something becomes a habit, it's not hard anymore.
Correct.
And it's only hard until we have to form that habit, and that's where discipline comes in. You have to have discipline before it becomes a habit. Discipline to form it into that. And like going to sweat or getting in cold water or eating healthy, it's only hard until it's a habit. It's only hard to have a good mindset until you're a habit or you're surrounded by people that are going to continue to keep you there. And so I think that's just watching habit forming is important, and then being recognizing that you could be doing hard things already and they just seem easy to you because you already have a habit in place for them.
Yeah, and they become easier when you have a group of people who are supporting you.
Right.
Like if you have friends who just go out and booze all the time and aren't waking up early or aren't making good decisions, it's going to be a lot harder for you to make that habit. Whereas if you have people who are going to be supportive of you, who are going to wake up with you on that Sunday morning for a run or for sweat or for a men's group or whatever it is, like if you're surrounding yourself with people who are going to support that, it's going to make that habit, that decision to do the right thing become easier, right? And then eventually, as you said, it just becomes part of who you are.
Yeah, part of your identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where it's so important to, as you said, you're the average of the people around you, right?
Yep.
Like if you're around people who are unhealthy, chances are you're going to be unhealthy. Doesn't matter how many times you say, I'm going to do 75 hard or I'm going to do this, right? Like you're going to fail, chances are. And if you don't, incredible, amazing. But it would have been a lot friggin' easier if your friends are supporting you.
Yes, 1,000%. And I think for anyone who really is hearing that and wants to dive deeper, I mean, a lot of things that my mindset, James Clear, Atomic Habits. Have you read that book?
Yeah.
Phenomenal book, and goes into the depths of how, like for you running marathons, the goal can't be to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner.
Yeah.
And then by a byproduct of that, you can do a marathon.
Yeah.
And so just having that framework of, I'm going to be a healthy masculinity or a good man, or I'm going to be healthy in my fitness goals. It's not to lift a certain weight or do whatever. It's to become that person to achieve those things.
And to have the little victories, right? Like
Yeah.
I was that person, like through medical school, when I was studying, it would be like, all right, I get like this break after 5 pages, or like I used to use peanut M&Ms were like my treat for studying.
I love that.
It would be like after every 5 pages, I get a peanut M&M or something like that. Cause I felt like a little reward. I felt like I got the next goal.
A little dopamine hit.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas I feel like as humans, we like those little dopamine hits. We like those little victories. So my goal wasn't to run 26.2. It was, all right, well, let's see how quick I could do 3 miles. All right, can I get to 4 miles? Can I do this? Like create all these little wins and have those wins, because wins give you momentum, right?
That's it. And then shout them from the mountaintops. No one's going to win. Let's celebrate your successes louder than you are.
Amen.
And then success begets success, it just keeps piling on.
And be married to like the most amazing, inspiring, motivating human being in the world. That was definitely the easiest part for me. It was having Tosh as my support
That's
system.
amazing. I love that you said that. Shout out to Tosh. Yeah, having that backbone for you, and it's super healthy. And there's a whole thing, like a woman in a man's life helps him like 3x his life and career.
Yeah,
it takes him to the next levels.
It's the truth.
Yeah, definitely love that. So when you guys aren't working together, I mean, what's that like? Well, first off,
working together.
Yes.
So our clinic, we get that all the time. So our clinic is set up. You walk in, we have no employees, so it's just me and Tosh. So you walk in, there's the little entrance, waiting area, and then our treatment areas are like a half wall. So it might be like 5 feet tall, and then it's kind of set up as a T. So I'm on one side, she's on the other. You can't see what's happening. You just see like our shoulders and up. So I'd be like, hey, Rye, take a seat, fill out paperwork, grab a water, whatever. We're there together all the time. And it's easy because I'm always with a patient. She's always with a patient, right? So it's not like me and her sitting here like this.
Right.
We've talked more in this last half hour, 20 minutes than me and her would in a day. But the nice part is when you have the trust that we have and that we're both super hard workers, there's no, why aren't you working this hard? Or why aren't you doing that, right? Like I'm very much a work hard, play hard person. Like when I'm working at 110%. I will always do everything I can to keep Primal like the best chiropractic clinic in the area. I'm never going to, slack off here or slack off there. And it would be hard for me to have an employee who might be doing their best. And maybe they don't care about being 100%, or maybe, you know, maybe they want to just be a good enough chiropractor and they don't want to be the best and they don't want to go over and above for that patient. I feel like I'd be a terrible boss. I'm just being honest because I wouldn't understand why are you not giving this 100%. Whereas for them, it wouldn't be their business. They wouldn't have to give 100%.
Right.
Whereas with me and Tasha, it works so well because we are the business. Primal is us. That is our lifeline. So we both have that and we have different strengths. So there's certain things in the clinic I'll do from like an administrative standpoint. And then there's certain things that she'll do. And we just blend so well together that we just kind of cover each other's tracks. So it just, I mean, it literally couldn't be a better.
That's awesome. You guys are the yin and the yang.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great way of putting it.
There's a book called Rocket Fuel.
Haven't heard of it.
It's all about how it's like, you know, you have Steve Jobs and then there was Steve Wozniak in the background. There's always the balance of like, you know, you have maybe the face person and then the person who's in the numbers, or you're good at this and I'm good at this over here. And together, it's the rocket fuel to really fuel.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. That's definitely me and Tosh.
Yeah, you got to. Because if you're both the same, then you'd be too much overlap.
Yeah, because we're both like, I'm like, what's the next thing to create or what's the next thing to do? And she's like, well, let's complete this first. And then we, right? So like I'd have 17 different clinics going and this and that with no one working them. So it really is nice to have that.
The balance pulls you back down. You're in the clouds, as Gary Vee would say, clouds and dirt.
Yeah.
Right?
She's very grounding to me.
That's good.
And that's the woman, right? Like that feminine energy is very grounding energy.
Yeah. Keeps you in line. And so you can't have the 14 clinics.
Exactly.
Because I'm with you.
With no employees.
Right. I have all the ideas. They're all there. They're going to be great. Yeah. But the focus is important.
Yeah.
The focus.
100%.
Yeah. She helps you stay here and there. You got anything else? Anything else I should have asked you?
I don't think so.
I mean, you did a great job.
Yeah. I want to talk about the men's group. We
Yeah.
talked about that. We talked about the marathon. Shout out St. Jude's.
Yeah.
Chiropractic.
We covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we did.
If they're still with us, what should they comment below? One word, maybe two.
Ooh.
If you're still here.
Like the people watching,
they're still here. They're still listening. I know my mom is right now. She's waiting to comment. She wants to know, what is she going to comment to say that I've made it this far in the podcast?
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Alabama football fan.
All right, fair enough. You would. There's no way you would guess that unless you were here. Love that. Well, I appreciate everything you're doing. Where can people find you?
Spineandsport.clinic is our website. Instagram, Primal Performance Spine Sport you're going to get most of our stuff. I use the Instagram as my personal Instagram, which I love and we get a lot of feedback on because it just shows you that we're real people.
Yeah.
Right? You get to see who we are, what we support on a day-to-day basis. So yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Joe. Thank you for everything that you do for the community, keeping us all aligned. Can't wait to come and see you when I get back. I'm super excited. Never been cupped, so I'll be good. If you're interested in getting cupped or aligned and everything, make sure you check out Joe. Check him out. Primal Sport, Primal Performance, Sport and Spine.
Spine and Sport.
Spine and Sport.
Primal Performance. That's it.
That's how they'll remember. This guy can't remember shit. Thank you again. Remember, we are sponsored by Bogdan Homes. We're here to help everyone move to the great St. Pete area. So find our contact information in the description below. Comment, Roll Tide if you're still here. Appreciate all of you, and we'll see you here in the next one.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Joe. Dude, that was great.
Yeah,
dude.
wow.
Mind blown. Can't wait. I wish I was coming to